Fellow citizens, my people say that an elder does not stay at home while a female goat gives birth while tied to a stake. Within the week, Shehu of Channels tried to make sense of the Naira scarcity and President Muhammadu Buhari reintroduction of the old 200 Naira notes. He brought on no better person than the erudite professor of law, Chidi Odinkano, to elucidate on the issues at stake.
President Buhari gives a directive on the Naira notes controversy. But where does that leave the Supreme Court order on this matter? President Buhari has come up with a new directive. He said that the Central Bank of Nigeria to release old 200 Naira notes into circulation to coexist with the new 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira banknotes for 60 days. He however said old 500 and 1,000 Naira banknotes are no longer legal tender in Nigeria. He gave the directive this morning in a nationwide broadcast at about 7 a.m.
During the extended phase of the deadline for currency swap, I listened to invaluable pieces of advice from well-meaning citizens and institutions across the nation. I similarly consulted widely with representatives of the state governors as well as the Council of State. Above all, as an administration that respects the rule of law, I have also noted that the subject matter is before the courts of our land and some pronouncements have been made. To further ease the supply pressures, particularly to our citizens, I have given approval to the CBN that the old 200 Naira banknotes be released back into circulation and that it should also be allowed to circulate as legal tender with the new 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira banknotes for 60 days from February 10th, 2023 to April 10th, 2023, when the old 200 Naira note ceases to be legal tender.
President has given his directives. I have met with about 15 banks this morning later, and we've given them directives about how they should make all the old 200 Naira notes available, effective today. And I can assure Nigerians that this will help to reduce the pains. We meet with the bankers at least once daily to get feedback and the rest of them. And I think we should just allow this policy work. The pains, temporary pains are regrettable, but I can assure Nigerians that it will be well.
Professor Chidi Odinkalu, a human rights activist, will be joining me next. Is our former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, and also we'll be getting his view on the legal perspective to this matter. Prof, it's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
One of the concerns, thank you so much, sir. One of the concerns here is the Supreme Court ex parte order that it gave, and how this stands with the president's directive of today. What do you make of this, legally speaking? Is there any problem?
In what manner?
So the Supreme Court is giving an order that subsists pending the hearing of the substantive matter.
Court? What was the order of the Supreme Court, really?
That the old notes should stay. And that the deadline of February 10 should not hold, because that is what they are. The state have gone to the Supreme Court to argue.
Is that what they said?
I guess that's what they say, except if I read the full judgment to you.
Now, you see, first of all, I don't claim to be a lawyer, as you well know. Because the kind of magic that comes from our courts these days, the fourth comes first, people who don't, who don't contest primaries become candidates. So I'm not going to come here now and pretend to you as if I'm a lawyer and I can figure out what the law is. It's a voodoo art. Only the people who practice it in the Supreme Court know what it means. So I'm not honestly coming here to talk to you about law. Okay?
Are you seeing
Therefore, I just speak as a citizen. That one, the Supreme Court cannot deny me.
Law lecturer.
Secondly, the Supreme Court, to the best of my knowledge, has not said what people are representing it as having said, which is the old notes should, whatever notes should, because that's not the province of a court, actually. It's a misplacement of the capabilities and assets of a court for it to get into that kind of thing. I suspect what the Supreme Court has said is preserve the status quo ante until we hear the case, as in status quo antebellum, which is what the thing was before the onset of litigation. Now, the question then becomes, what was the status quo antebellum that you are trying to preserve? And this is where the laziness of the judicial system, as well as the limitations of law, actually come to full view, because status quo antebellum actually was the central bank's release, central bank circular on exactly when this thing should stop. So actually, to that extent, and I suspect this is the advice the president got, he has not breached anything. And by the way, as a supplementary point to that second point, he says you can continue to use 200 Naira notes. That, even if you read it the way you have read it, that still is compatible with the order that people are bandying about as having come from the Supreme Court. But let me say one thing finally. A currency system cannot be legislated or ordered into existence by a court. And every court has got to be careful about how it uses or abuses its authority and competence. Because when a court loses authority, as the Supreme Court sadly appears to be doing in Nigeria today, it is difficult to get it back. And that is a very dangerous place for any society to be in. A currency system is a promise backed up by the guarantee of a central bank. That is such basic monetary economics. If judges and lawyers in Nigeria don't know it, they should go and read up about it. Okay? If the central bank that guarantees a monetary system withdraws its support from it, you cannot legislate that into existence, because the trust that backs up the monetary system has collapsed. 1 million Supreme Court orders will not bring into existence a currency system that has lost legitimacy. I may add this. The core of a government's credibility, national or international, is three things: defense and security, foreign affairs, and currency. When people like Governor El-Rufai go around screaming and frothing at the mouth about this matter, they are essentially trying to tough out a sitting president. As you well know, Sheon, I don't have a lot of kind things to say about Muhammadu Buhari. But on this matter, I think Buhari is fighting for the last thing a government must fight for. And on that, he is well within his rights to do so. I don't think it is proper for state governors to go around issuing orders countermanding a president on exactly the thing that a central government cannot negotiate: money and currency. And quite frankly, what the governors are doing in this matter verges on treason. You cannot be telling a president to yield up his authority over currency systems. That is not negotiable at all. You can't. It is now, these are the people who quarrel with Nnamdi Kanu, and they're going ahead to do the kinds of things El-Rufai is doing. I'm sorry, that's not negotiable.
Prof, so let me show you some views on this matter. The Speaker of the House of Representatives today in a 3-page statement released, and whoever that is flipping the pages, please move with me, because I will move through those pages. I won't be able to read all through the pages in one fell swoop. So first and foremost, it mentions section 20, subsection 3 of the Central Bank of Nigeria Act 2007, which provides the statutory authority of the Central Bank of Nigeria to initiate and implement policies for the recall of Nigeria currency. Now, he went further to say, notwithstanding the subsection 1 and 2 of this section, the bank shall have power, if directed so by the president, and after giving reasonable notice on that behalf, to call in any of his notes or coins on payment of the face value thereof, and any note or coin with respect to which a notice has been given under this subsection shall, on the expiration of such notice, cease to be a legal tender, but subject to section 22 of this act, shall be redeemed by the bank upon demand. Now, he went further on the second page of the statement to say that it is disheartening that the central bank, that's in the third paragraph, has resolutely refused to admit error and change course in the face of mounting evidence that the implementation of this policy has been a devastating failure. Then I'll move to the third page. And this is the submission of the Speaker of the House, Honorable Fembeja Biamila. He says, however, the decision still falls. He said this is a step in the right direction, making reference to President Buhari's statement today in his broadcast. He said this is a step in the right direction, and I hope it helps curb Nigerian suffering. However, the decision still falls short of the order of the Supreme Court that the old currencies remain legal tender pending the adjudication of a pending suit brought by state governments on the legality of the policy and its implementation. It is not to the benefit of our country for the federal government to act in ways that suggest a wanton disregard for the rule of law. Your reaction on this, Prof?
I mean, he's the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I'm not going to contest his prerogatives to exercise his opinion. The point is this. He also ends this on a line that all of us can agree on, which is in all matters, the interests of the country and its people must be paramount. Now, you've got to ask yourself the question, right? How many children have been abducted in Kaduna State? When last did you hear Nasir El-Rufai complain about all the killings and abductions happening in southern Kaduna, from Kajuru to Jema'a? When last did you hear him complain about all of the atrocities that have happened? Now he's jumping all about what? Cash? Currency reform? Right? The fact of the matter, you and I know that, is that this is about cash to buy elections. Let us not fool ourselves. And all of these politicians, including
is there any evidence to that, Prof?
The fact of you can shut me down on this program if you want. I want to go on record.
I'm not shutting you down, Prof.
I'm going to push this matter because all of us are Nigerians. No. You are not going to shut me down on this matter.
I'm not shutting you down. I'm just saying.
Tell Lai Mohammed to find me, let him find me. But you and I know that this matter is about cash to buy elections.
There are allegations that your party are planning to rig this election. For example, there are pictures online at the surface, bullion vans coming out of your premises.
Bullion vans. I don't ballot papers. Need my money or government money. I don't work for government. I'm not in agency of government. Yes, they should prove it. So, even if I have money to spend in my premises, what's your headache? And I have money to spend. If I have money, if I like, I give it to the people for free of charge.
And the president said that much because he linked this matter to free and fair elections. Why would the president be linking this matter to free and fair elections if we're not talking about cash to buy elections? Why should the governor of Kano State, who was caught on tape, trousering dollars in bundles, now be the person complaining about this?
Yawa. Wannan ma in ka duba za ka ga 5 ne. Akwai aljihun naka sun ba, inda ba raba su za ka yi ba kuma.
The fact of the matter is these politicians who are jumping up about this don't have public interest in view. And Nigerians are suffering, okay? But also Nigerians are willing to endure this if it is the price they have to pay to ensure that whoever wins fairly on the 25th of this month becomes president. Whether it is Tinubu or Atiku or Peter Obi, let it be fair and credible, not at the price of whether it is El Rufai or Masari or whichever governor has collected public money and wants to launder it in elections. It must not be allowed. Nigerians know that. If this suffering is the price we will pay to make sure this does not happen, that is fine. The Supreme Court justices will not be spending old currency. Are they spending old currency? We don't live in another country. If Nigeria goes belly up, all of us are going down. I don't have 2 passports. These guys don't have a better interest in that country than I do. And so all of us are adults here. So let nobody come here and threaten us. They are going to do this El-Rufai releasing saliva from different parts of the mouth. I'm sorry. This program is going to get ugly because we are fighting for a country and these guys want to destroy it. In the name of politics, we must not allow it. I am willing to be offensive on this matter. Let them deny. Excuse me. Can they deny that the purpose for which they have gone to court is because they want to preserve cash to buy elections? Can they deny it? Of course they can't. Now, by the way, you are complaining about contempt of court. You go to the Supreme Court to fight central bank policy, but you have not sued the central bank because they cannot sue the central bank in original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Can they? They know that if they were to join central bank in the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, the matter will have to start the Federal High Court, in which case this matter will not be an original jurisdiction matter in the Supreme Court. So you have joined central bank to dispose of a matter behind its back when it is an essential party, and you are talking about law, and you're talking about justice, you're talking about legality. Where do they want to jump off? I'm sorry. I'm willing to be offensive on this matter because these guys are conducting themselves as if they are the only people who have a legitimate interest in a country of over 220 million people. A country is at stake here, and we need to be offensive when we are battling for a country.
So the Supreme Court granted this interim or injunction on the 8th of February, and it basically restraining the CBN and the federal government from implementing the February 10th deadline. The CBN is not a party to the proceedings. But therefore, the Supreme Court cannot join a party in an order in proceedings in which it is not joined. I'm sorry. But in the eye of the law, Prof.
Excuse me. The Supreme Court has invented all manner of orders. Hope Uzodinma was declared governor of Imo State. Now we understand that the United States has actually denied visas to our Supreme Court justices on the basis of judgments is given, and you are not affronted as a Nigerian. When did we get to the point where our justices of the Supreme Court have got to be denied visas? That being a justice of the Supreme Court is no longer good enough as a guarantor of your good faith and good standing as a Nigerian. Are you not affronted? And we're sitting down here talking about inanity?
In fact, if the Supreme Court as the apex court and the Supreme Court of the land is giving an order or is sitting on a matter, and in the same vein, the president of the nation gives a directive on the same matter, what kind of situation do you think we have entered into?
We have entered into a situation in which quite clearly the president is saying he has no respect for the Supreme Court. Does that not bother you?
But isn't that a problem for the rule of law? Isn't that supposed to be the guiding principle for our nation operating democracy?
Now, Sheung, look at this. APC governors met with the president, and they agreed to give the president 7 days. Within the 7 days, they sued the president, which means they did not take the president's word for it, that the man was saying he was going to do something in good faith on this matter. What that means is all bets had gone off. Basically, the table had been cleared. At the time, when they treated their own party leader as not worth his word, the man recoiled into his visceral mode. And you understand, I think President Buhari has made one thing clear. If at any point he comes to the conclusion that his power is at stake, he is not the kind of person who recoils. If anything, he goes fighting. And the APC governors, sadly, treated him with contempt. And he has decided this is the time to assert his authority. It's not something over which I'll quarrel with him. It's not the last time that this happened. By the way, it's not the first time this happened. The last time it happened was the NSAS. A lot of young Nigerians were killed. And these same governors were whooping. I remember the presidential candidate of the APC then saying, "What were you doing at the march?" So now, all of them have become whalers. Sadly, the application forms for whaling sold out long time ago. And we are not willing to admit El-Rufai into the community of whalers. He is where he is.
Now, Prof, quickly, I revert again to the statement of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he asked a question. He says, the decision still falls short of the order of the Supreme Court that the old currencies remain legal tender pending the adjudication of a pending suit brought by the state government on the legality of the policy and its implementation. When the parties return to the court, what kind of thing do you think will be playing out?
That is their problem. I'm not a lawyer to the parties, and I'm glad that the Speaker of the House of Representatives, my brother Femi Gbaja, is not either. So let the Supreme Court do its work. The president claims to be doing his work. But you see the thing. The two things are clear here. Number one, the central bank is not party to the proceedings, and you cannot issue orders against parties who are not persons who are not party to proceedings. So the central bank can carry on doing what it wants to do. If they want to join the central bank, let them apply to join the central bank. The matter goes to the Federal High Court. It's that simple. As long as they are suing the federal government and the central bank is an independent institution, there is not much that can be done about this. Number two, the president under the law is sovereign and has immunity from proceedings. What that means is you can't even issue contempt of court proceedings against the president. A court should never issue an order that it cannot enforce. Number three, if I may add, the old currency notes have lost legitimacy on the streets. Even voters who are looking to, that's the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes, have lost legitimacy. Voters will not accept them as electoral bribe. Supreme Court will not accept those notes as filing fees. Lagos High Court will not accept them. Kaduna State will not accept them. Policemen on the streets will not accept them as bribe. Why do you want to continue fighting over currency that has lost legitimacy?
Prof, on this matter, where do you think we should go from here? Because for those who see some kind of legal logjam in this matter, what do you see and what is your final word on this matter?
I'm quite clear on this. There is no legal logjam. I think those who El-Rufai, by the way, I can't stop talking about him on this matter.
You keep mentioning the name of the man. Maybe we should move away from the personality and we should just stay on the issue.
No. This is not about, what is the issue? The issue is that some governors who have collected money that should have been used to develop their people have locked it up to use it to buy votes. That is the issue. And they are getting the Supreme Court involved. That is the issue. So I'm very clear about what the issues are, sir, and you will not derail me. And those governors include El Rufai, and El Rufai is carrying it on his head. Let him sue me if he wants to. Now, what is the matter here? That people like El Rufai want to buy elections. Okay?
You don't have any evidence to that, Prof.
I have evidence. That is why he has been frothing from studio to studio. The president said in his own words that he wants to stop them from buying elections. And that is why all of a sudden, El Rufai has joined opposition with Yahaya Bello and with Masari and Ganduje, who was caught trousering dollars, don't forget. And I will keep saying it on this program until you ban me from coming here. And now you are trying to tell me that we are not supposed to discuss this as Nigerians because these are not political issues. And they want to pay. Now, governors want to, first of all, impoverish people, take money, estreat it, and when it comes to elections, they use the same money they should have used to advance people's interests to buy elections. And they say we should all line up behind that. El Rufai has never obeyed one court order. And today, he is the person who is going to Supreme Court. This is the man who chased away a judge from his residence and was celebrating it in his memoirs. This is the man who bribed, and I'm quoting him, in his own memoirs, he bribed the former chief judge of the Federal High Court, Justice Gumi. I am naming names. Stop me from coming to this program because we've got to stop this nonsense. He said he bribed Justice Gumi, who was an old boy of Barawa like himself, so that nobody would sue him while he was minister of the FCT. He said it in his own memoirs, and today he's going to the Supreme Court. And you don't want us to discuss these issues? Where is his record of defending the rule of law? This hypocrisy has got to stop. And on this matter, there are no good manners. I'm not going to come to your program on this particular matter and show good manners because these guys are acting in bad faith. This is your program, and my program is citizenship. So you are doing your
but
work.
we need to. I have a regulator, and we need to align by the rule of law that guides our operation. And that's why I'm saying what I said, Prof. I'm not going to gag you. You have the right and the freedom as a citizen to speak your mind freely. But there is a rule that guides our profession.
But remember what I said. I said I am citing a source, which is El Rufai's own memoirs, Accidental Public Servant. I am not making this up in my head. I reviewed Accidental Public Servant. When I put that inside my review, El Rufai came and begged me to remove it.
Professor Chidi Odikalu, a lawyer, rights activist, and a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission.